Can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Oh, okay.
Hello. This meeting is being recorded. I'd like to introduce you to Dr. Patricia Hernandez from Los Angeles. I myself am Jennifer Gallardi from Milpitas Adult School in just north of San Jose. And Dr. Hernandez, I would like to hear about some of the experiences, what's happening with the USCIS openings down in Los Angeles.
Oh, it's a pleasure to be with you, Jennifer. Yesterday we had an orientation meeting from it was a local meeting for stakeholders, for people in the area of Los Angeles working through immigration office here. And the highlights of that meeting were that they had begun service as of the 8th, Monday of this week. And that the first thing that they were doing was working with all the backlogged people who were waiting to be sworn in.
For the oath ceremony?
The oath ceremony, yes.
Excellent.
And so the word was that they had sworn in 1,600 people between Monday and yesterday. They will continue doing that. They want to make sure that they get all those people sworn in. And they expect on Tuesday, June 16th, to open up and begin doing citizenship interviews at the office.
I need to ask you some questions about the oath ceremony. Usually when they have the oath ceremony down in Los Angeles, I believe it's at the Staples Center. It's a really large venue.
Convention center, yes.
Oh, the convention center.
Uh-huh.
Where did they have the oath ceremonies down in Los Angeles?
They told us that they had received permission from the court to be able to administer the oath right there. So I don't know how they've been doing it since Monday, but they told us that the way that they would go forward, once they had begun interviewing, that if a student passes the interview, they will then and there administer the oath. I assume that the student will go back to, I'm guessing that the student will return to the waiting room because they obviously have to prepare the citizenship certificate. But what they indicated is that the student would not be asked to return, that they would be sworn in by that, I assume by their officer, then and there, the same day.
Okay, I need to talk a little bit about San Jose. So in San Jose, they started doing oath ceremonies, but they're doing them in the parking lot because we love our parking lots, and people stand in front of their cars because we love our cars. So it's outdoors, which is very nice in San Jose. It won't get hotter. Okay, but and you're with a family member. You're with your car. So, but in Los Angeles, did they give any indication where they were having the oath ceremony this week? Was it in the USCIS offices?
Yes. And we don't have, I understand that San Jose has a parking lot that's free. We don't, Los Angeles does not have such a parking lot.
It's a separate building too. So we have a building on one side is for fingerprinting, on the other side is for processing cases. So, but in Los Angeles, I believe it's in a federal building. Is that correct?
Yes, the 8th floor of the federal building. Yes.
Okay, great. Okay.
But, so they did not explain to us how they were swearing in those people, but what I do know is what's going to happen starting next week. That's what they told us. So,
have any of your students received rescheduling appointment letters for their interview?
Not yet. I contacted them yesterday with the news that I had from the orientation that we received yesterday, and they were ecstatic about not having to make an extra trip for the swearing-in ceremony. But nobody has received a letter. And the other thing that they told us yesterday is that it's going to be a lot slower, that they have remodeled everything. They've moved all the furniture around. Less people will be in the waiting room, and that they've remodeled the actual offices where the interviews will be taking place. There's a plexiglass. Plexiglass will be separating the person who is being interviewed, the student and the officer, number one. And number two, they're going to have there'll be a time between each interview to allow them to clean up. They'll have to go in and sterilize the office before the next person can come in.
Well, the other safety precaution that I heard the USCIS is taking is everybody must wear their own mask and bring their own pen. So one of the questions
here. Yes, it's also true here. Yes.
So one of the questions is that my student, when she took, this is before the COVID-19 shutdown, when she went to do her writing test, she did not want to take it on the iPad because you cannot correct your mistakes on the iPad. She asked for a piece of paper and got it, and I don't think that is standard practice at most places.
No, prior to COVID-19, every student has complained because you have to do your dictation on this iPad, right? On this tablet. Every time, every student who's requested not to do that, no one has been permitted in LA, of my students, has been allowed to do anything but use their finger or a stylus on the tablet. So no one, at least of my students, has been allowed to write with a pen or use paper. That's not been, so you're lucky, your students are lucky if they were able to do that.
Okay, so is there, can we just take a second and show people information about field offices, because I know in Los Angeles, are they processing fingerprints?
No. We asked that question yesterday, and they sent us to the website.
Okay.
The website indicated that all offices were closed.
So let's take a look at the website.
Let's show them how.
So this is the website here. This is USCIS. They have information about COVID-19. Let's go to office closings. And when we go to office closings.
Wait.
Yeah.
Is that what it says? It doesn't say office close. Oh, does it? Okay.
Yeah. USCIS office closings.
Okay.
They have information about the reopening, and they talk about the field offices. So this one's actually closed. But when you take a look at this, this is you click the plus and it'll show you what offices are closed. And actually in San Jose, even though that they're allowing people to come in for their
ceremony,
for the oath ceremonies, they are not allowing people to do interviews yet. Same with Fresno, Sacramento, and San Francisco. So here they're going to have information about the field offices. If you can
throughout the United States, you see, because it has Louisville in there, it has Kentucky in there, it has New York.
Yeah.
So you notice that anybody accessing is going to be able to find out information about their particular locale.
Yeah. And if you need to go on further down, there's information about application support centers and asylums and international offices.
Right, but the application support centers are where the fingerprints are taken. So can you click on there?
Yeah.
And
all are closed.
That means all throughout the United States, Jennifer. That means all through the United States, right? That's what that means.
Right. So that's really hard. Yeah. But then the question comes up, and I think you thought about this. Why should I apply for citizenship if I'm not going to be, if I have to wait for my fingerprints? What do you think?
Jennifer, I think that we need to encourage people to make the application, because as we were talking before, we think that there's an imminent fee increase coming around, and to guarantee your place in line to avoid the fee increase would be to submit your application.
Okay, and so I wanted to show students where they would find that information. If there is any information about fee increases, of course it's at USCIS, and it would be basically on the front page that they would have things about news. So here's things about news and events, and it would be down here. We don't see anything about fee increases yet. So take this time, save that money, because it's going to jump from $725 to about $1,200. That's a big jump, okay? Definitely. But they're using this money to basically offset the labor that's going into processing the applications, and also all the stuff with COVID-19. all the safety measures to protect the staff and to protect the people.
Right, and you asked me for the highlights of that meeting yesterday
Yeah.
to talk about, and let's go over, at least in Los Angeles, you
Yeah.
can't get in unless you have a mask. They're going to have officers throughout the building, and at all times and in any place in the building, you must have the mask on. You can't take it off. I mean,
And it can't put it, it has to be above the nose.
The nose, yes. Has to cover the nose and the mouth, yes.
Mhm.
They will ask you before you come in. First of all, security will only take one person at a time. And as you come, they're going to ask you, are you experiencing any of the symptoms of COVID? They will ask you if you've traveled around recently, and also if you've been around people who have been exposed to COVID. So
Wow.
they're going to be asking you those questions. Jennifer, do you think that they won't be translating those, right? So they will be asking every person in English. Is that your sense?
I would think so. I would think so.
So we need to prepare our students that those are the kinds of questions in English, because those are harder questions. Those aren't.
Well, can I go back to the screen share just for a second? And then I'm going to go back to the website. So, are we seeing it? Okay, great. So here, when we take a look at this one, we can take a look at this is in English, but at the very top,
exactly right. Yes.
At the very top of the page, you can translate things. If you hit Espanol, you translate it into Spanish, and also you can translate this into different languages too. So, for instance, let me go back to English. They have it available also, I think, no, what am I doing? They also have it in, I'm clicking too much, that's the problem. They also have it, you can look at it in different languages. So, here's the languages up here. You can translate it into different languages. So, for instance, here you have the language that you need. Of course, I want to translate into Italian. I think most of my students are Vietnamese. So if you take a look at things in Vietnamese, you're going to be able to see, let's go back to the front page. Is it going to have that information? Doesn't have the information, and it doesn't have that information in Vietnamese. So we're really going to have to get on the stick about translating these kind of questions into the different languages for our students. Okay.
Listen, I just remembered talking about translators. The rule is going to be that your translator, for example, if you're doing your citizenship interview in your language, you are not going to have a translator with you. That person has to be accessible by phone. But they don't want them physically to accompany you. So
this is very important. Is USCIS going to basically supply the translator?
You are going to talk with your translator. You have to have the phone number, and USCIS will call them at the moment that they need the translation.
Okay, very good.
But that person won't, you're not, and also the rule is nobody's to accompany you to your interview. No support, no husband or daughter or driver. I would assume the only time that I would always encourage a spouse to come is when it's, a person who's doing, asking or petitioning for citizenship after 3 years. In that case, I would assume that the spouse needs to come.
Yeah, they do.
In the other situation, they're not going to want anyone else to be in there because they're really trying to limit how many people are in the building and in the waiting room and all that stuff. So
okay. The other thing is I know San Jose is a smaller office, very easy entrance and access. Los Angeles is a federal building, many stories. What advice do you have for somebody who's going to an urban center? Do you suggest that they come exactly on 15 minutes, or what do you think?
All right. Well, I need to say, what USCIS says is that they should be there 15 minutes before. But I have spoken with colleagues of mine who think that probably it would be wise if the student arrived before. They could check out the line, check out to see, they could speak with the security guard to see if they would allow them in or not. And if not, they could return to their car and sit. We feel like it's something that it's just getting started. And so what we really wouldn't want is for the student to miss their interview because they took more than 15 minutes to get up to the room. And this ties into what you said about the size of the office. That we've already, immigration has indicated, they had said it yesterday, they are limiting how many people can be in the elevator. So that means that you might be stuck waiting to go up to in our building. Usually it's the 8th floor where citizenship interviews are conducted. You may be stuck waiting to get on a clear elevator. So, always we need to put in extra time, because it's not going to be, you just don't know how long it'll take you to get up to the waiting room and report. And so I, as a teacher, and I think you also would suggest that the student arrive more than the 15 minutes that immigration has said, because they put it out there, certainly in the instructions, don't arrive more than 15 minutes before. And I think we would just encourage people to build in a cushion there because of the situation, because of the COVID.
Some of my students actually do a trial run where they go the day before or a couple of days before at approximately the same time to see what it is like. So
yeah, I know. I think that's
practice
always
makes
a good
perfect.
plan.
Yeah,
I have students who do that too. But the other part of that is when you make your timeline, when you decide, kind of what time you're leaving from your home, you're thinking about what time you want to be there at immigration. And I think that's I think that I guess I would suggest that you not adhere to the 15 minutes. I think probably it's wiser if you add extra time. And if you're too early, you can go back and sit in your car. Mm-hmm. But if you're okay, then you could go up. So the person
use the bathroom.
That is the security guard. So
yeah. Okay. So we talked about we haven't had any news about the fee waiver, but we now know where to look for it on USCIS. Let's talk about the summer. What's happening with summer and citizenship down in Los Angeles?
All right. In Santa Monica, we're closed.
Okay.
So we don't offer any class. We're a small district, but we aren't offering any citizenship. We're not offering any classes, period. We're closed until August.
So what I'm doing is, same with the Milpitas Adult School. So what I'm going to be doing is doing just an open Zoom class Tuesday and Thursday nights, approximately 7 to 8. Perfect. And basically teaching a lesson related to civics. I might refer to some of the videos from the Smithsonian preparing for the oath, but just basically presenting information and vocabulary about that and see where we can go from there.
Jennifer, is it okay if I join you then?
Absolutely.
Okay? And I'll pass the word out to my students. If that's okay. Is that okay with you?
Yeah. So people... you people on YouTube and everything like that, I don't know how much interaction can be happening. We're just starting out. We might be putting people in breakout rooms and everything like that, but at least we can get some practice in during summer. Anything else that we need to talk about before
no, it's exciting. Let's just see, because it'd be nice for the students to have something. See, your school is closed, my school is closed, so it's better that they have something, because I have 3 students waiting for their interview. So they're going to be first up. So it's best for them to continue to study. Downtime is not going to be helpful to them. They need to study prior to their interview. So
also in the summer, besides school, people travel a lot. And even though we're not supposed to be traveling, and I'm really staying close to home, I'm not going out shopping or anything like that. But, for instance, my brother is still crossing the border back and forth to Tijuana. What have you heard about travel restrictions?
Well, certainly, I think that I have colleagues also who have family on the other side of the border, and they're able to go back and forth. But I think that there's a real push for the government, for at least officially to keep it down, to reduce the amount of travel crossing the border. So
my brother traveled
to think about it. Yeah.
My brother travels with the Century Pass, so he never leaves his car. He just goes through the line that way. But traveling, doing the pedestrian crossing would be really difficult, because how can you possibly maintain social distance during that part?
Exactly. Yeah. No.
And they're saying that Tijuana is trying to be very safe, and they're trying to be very, very cautious. But we also have to be concerned about, there's people who are on the other side who are stuck there because they're seeking asylum. They're working in factories. There's a lot of places that people really, really need to be careful.
Yeah,
So,
to avoid if you can. Yeah.
Yeah. So none of my students are traveling back and forth to China right now, or Vietnam.
Because
Yeah.
I think, well, see, in each of these cases, there's a reduction, all right, for how many flights are going to be received from China. And there's definitely a reduction of how many people are going to be allowed to come in, crossing, like you said, if they were doing pedestrian crossings or anything like that. And sometimes we've heard about them closing the border. So, it's just not something that you want to, you don't know. You get over there, and then if you couldn't come back, that would be really difficult.
I know you used to do a class at the airport. Have you heard anything from your contacts at the airport about travel, or even the workers there?
They're just, everybody's hunkered down. That's everybody. In fact, they've sent as many people as possible to work from home. So there are a whole lot of administrative people who aren't even at the airport. In fact, they do like 4 days at home, 1 day, for example, the badge office, right? I have a number of people who work in the badge office. Well, you have to keep the badge office open, but they just have, they'll trade off, and it'll be a different person each day. But aside from that, they're at home.
Speaking of which, that reminds me, my student said, well, why can't I just do like a Zoom meeting doing a Zoom interview with a USCIS officer? And you came up with some really good reasons why they can't do that.
Yeah, no, remember that during that interview, the officer is going to request some documents from you. The very first thing, they're going to want to see your green card. They're going to want to see a second ID. Sometimes in Los Angeles, they ask to see your social security card. And sometimes they ask to see all of your passports. So that you can't do on Zoom. So it's going to have to be in person. Just things happen that they have to take care of in person. They can't do it online.
I wonder if it would help to put all that kind of stuff in a clear plastic bag. When you travel, you have to put liquids in a clear plastic bag. So all you have to do is show the officer that. I know the officer has to actually open up the passport, but anything that you can do to help an interviewing officer make their job easier and make their job safer, so you can be protected and they can be protected, is going to be really helpful.
Right. In Los Angeles, they don't start interviewing. They're not beginning interviews until Tuesday the 16th. And that's the one thing I've asked my students, as soon as they get an interview, that they need to come and share with us, because obviously there'll be a whole lot of changes, and so both you and I need to be listening to our students, so that they can give us an on-site view, a view of exactly how things are going to go, what's going to happen between the officer and the student. All of that will be interesting. All right. With this plexiglass, you don't know if you're going to be setting it, if you're going to be putting your documents up against the plexiglass, or if you're going to give them to the officer. Which we
used to do. We used to put things up against the plexiglass.
So we'll see. I have to wait. That's another question that will be interesting to pose. I think, we will know after Tuesday. I think it's all theory still right now, because they haven't done any interviews here.
Okay. Do you have any final thoughts before we close this? And hopefully we can do this again real soon, but do you have any final thoughts?
It was a pleasure seeing you, Jennifer, and working with you. And I'll look forward to seeing you on Tuesday, in the class. And that's wonderful. I will be inviting my students as well. 7 to 8 on Tuesdays, right?
Peace out. Okay, bye-bye.
Nice to talk to you.
Okay, great.